Anyway, MMA, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Cory Sandhagen is due to go down. Bantamweight division, number one contender matchup, do we think?
I do think
Abu Dhabi
so.
as well, right?
Abu Dhabi, yeah. I mean, just the fact that there's been no movement for Merab versus Sean O'Malley tells me that Merab might not be number one. And this Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov fight, it's going to be pretty hard if there's a convincing winner in this fight. Like, you know, it doesn't go to like a split decision or whatever. If somebody walks away from this a clear cut head and shoulders above the other, it's going to be so hard to give that number one contender spot to anyone else.
And I don't know this firsthand, but I saw something on social media talking about Umar Nurmagomedov, and it's basically said that he's never lost a round. Now, I don't know if that's true because I can't remember every round that he's ever competed in, but he's certainly undefeated. And in the UFC so far, Sergey Morozov finished, Brian Kelleher, rear naked choke, Nate Manez decision, Ronnie Barcelos, first round stoppage. That was impressive. I called that one last time. A decision again. So 3, 4, 5-0 so far in the UFC. He's slick on the feet. He's got great kickboxing. The wrestling, of course, being a Dagestani. How tall is he? I think he's pretty tall as well. 5'8" for the division. I think O'Malley's what? 5'10"?
Yeah, I think he's 5'10", 5'11", something like that.
Yeah. Cory Sandhagen, though. He's no slouch either. Hate to bring it up. Look at what he did to Chito Vera. You know, I hate to bring that up, but it's true. That's the fight where I looked at Cory Sandhagen in a completely different light. You know, I was like, Jesus Christ. That is a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, I think didn't he break his hand against Rob Font in like the first round? And I mean, granted, not the most exciting fight from there on out, but if he's doing that with a broken hand to, you know, somebody who is a perennial top 5, top 7 contender type guy, the guy is an absolute problem. And it's like, I don't know. This is the fight. This is the fight for Umar. Yeah, you haven't lost a round up to this point. You also haven't fought anybody nearly as good as Cory Sandhagen. So let's see if you keep that streak alive.
This is the thing, right? Bantamweight. It's insane. Most of the weight classes now are crazy. Sean O'Malley, an incredible champion. I think he has grown into that role so good. That last fight against Chito, the fight against Aljamain Sterling, you know, Piotr Jan was a close one, and, you know, people weren't still sold, but those last 2 performances, how can you not be? And they were like, oh, the slow rolling game, they're taking the time. You're right. They were. They kind of did. But you could argue that that's an appropriate path to take with somebody with real potential that you're building along the way, that a good manager would kind of choose those kind of appropriate step-ups in competition as the career progresses. And now when he gets to the chance of being a champion, he's a dominant champion, granted only 1 defense, but he has got a murderer's row. So he's got Merab coming up. Cory Sandhagen is 2. Piotr Jan is beaten. Marlon Vera, he's beaten. Henry Cejudo, I don't think he's getting a shot. Umar Nurmagomedov is only ranked number 10. So, yeah, in terms of threats, it's Merab, Cory, and Umar Nurmagomedov. And I think all of those, I think they're all tough. With respect to Sean, of course, I think they're all tough matchups. I think Umar Nurmagomedov, probably the toughest out of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, especially with all 3 of those guys you just mentioned having, you know, grappling being a large part of their game plan. You know, somebody who can stifle the kind of kickboxing and, you know, range distance approach of somebody like Sean O'Malley, right? Like that's one person. You know, the only guy who was really a threat like that was Jan, but I mean, that guy, he doesn't go to his offensive wrestling that much. These guys are really going to test, you know, his takedown defense.
Yeah, and most of them are long. Merab's not. You know, I think Merab, he's very, very good at what he does, but he's not as dynamic and not as versatile as Umar or Cory Sandhagen. They can really pick their poison. They're fast. They're dynamic, as I said. You know, they're very, very technical on the feet, and then the grappling's probably just as good as well. You know, whereas Merab, you know, he's a marauder. He's a cardio machine. He's a monster. He pushes forward, relentless pressure, insane cardio. But there is a potential for Sean to catch Merab the same way that he caught Aljamain Sterling. You know, so it's a great fight. Can't wait for Merab, and I wish him all the best, of course. But after that, I tell you what, O'Malley's got some tough fights, but that means money, big fights. Not surprised he's calling out Ilia Topuria.
Yeah, dude, get me out of this division, right? Give me a striker.
I don't think he's doing that. What is going on? What do we know about Ilia Topuria? Because I saw some. Max Holloway was on the Joe Rogan podcast. I know this isn't in the notes. He was on the podcast and he kind of cleared up some things. Do you recall what that was?
Yeah. So Ilia keeps saying, "I only want to fight this guy if the BMF is on the line," right? So Holloway came out and said, "All right, fine. The bitchest belt can be on the line if you're going to be this much of a whiner and complainer about what kind of stipulations you're going to put on a fight. That doesn't really seem like BMF behavior, but sure, whatever. I don't care. Give me the fight."
So they've moved on then, have they, completely from Volkanovski?
So as far as what Ilia said is, I've never turned down the Volkanovski fight, right? There was rumors that he was offered Volkanovski for the card in Australia coming up. Early reports were that Ilia Topuria had no interest in going to Australia to fight him. Ilia came out and said, "I haven't been offered the Volkanovski fight, which means I haven't turned down the Volkanovski fight. But that belt that Max has around his shoulder is pretty tempting to me."
It's the exact same situation as Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Islam Makhachev. I said it at the time with that performance that Dustin Poirier had against Benoit Saint-Denis. Don't be surprised if he gets a title fight. And that was before Max Holloway flatlined Justin Gaethje. And now it's the same thing. Volkanovski, by rights, by merits, what he's done in the division, should be the next guy. However, Max Holloway putting on one of the most inspiring performances that you're ever going to see. He's jumped the queue. And I think most fans right now, certainly when, and come on, we all love Volkanovski, but when you saw how such an emphatic stoppage, the way he knocked him out, and then you look at the fight before that against Islam, and it was a knockout then, and then there was the decision lost to Islam as well, that just affects the casual fan base's appreciation for that fighter. It's like, hold on, 3 out of 4, is it? 3 out of 4, you've lost now, But Ilia wants the biggest fights possible, and the public want to see the guys that they're going to point at the floor and say, come on, let's do this. Let's do that man dance. You know what I mean? I'd say Holloway versus Topuria would be my pick.
Well, I think there's a reason Dana White, right, for the massive stage that was the Tom Brady roast, he brought 2 guys with him to sit at his table, right? Sean O'Malley, who we all agree is he's the next biggest star. He's maybe going to move into that Conor McGregor spot. And then Max Holloway, who I legitimately think after UFC 300 might be the biggest star in the company.
Yeah. Who, Max Holloway?
Yeah. I mean, that moment crossed over, dude. Casuals who I haven't talked to in years were texting me about that point at the floor moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's not the first time he's done it. That was a massive, massive spotlight, UFC 300. That was the narrative. Listen, Pereira was incredible. That uppercut, the way he finished Jamal Hill, incredible. Well done to him. I mean, he continues to do incredible things.